If any more directors end up joining us, we can make time for them as well. Thank you, Andrew and Ezra. Thank you for joining us today. Just before we get started, some housekeeping. To make it easier and more apparent for anybody who may be joining us, if you are a candidate, can you make sure that you change your name to reflect what you are running for in parentheses, like I've done with my name, just to make it easier both for myself and people who may be joining us in the audience so that they know who you are. We are going to try to adhere to the schedule today. We've got about 40 minutes for this session, so we are going to be doing a minute of opening statements each. Then we're going to be doing a few icebreakers, loosen things up, get things flowing a little bit easier. I know these open forum events can be a little bit stressful, so we're going to try and have a good time. We're going to do 25 minutes of Q&A, and we're going to have some time for audience participation as well. Any questions that we get from online as well.
One second, Aaron.
Yep.
I did not see that there was more directors in the waiting room.
Perfect. We can let them in then. Oh, lots of people. Perfect. Love it.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Good. All right. Give everybody a second to join, then we can restart that. All right, perfect. As we get started, I will repeat one more time for the director candidates who are joining us today. If you could please change your name to reflect what position you are running for in parentheses, like Andrew has done, like myself and Ezra have done, just to make it a little bit easier, a little bit more clear for people in the audience to know who you are and to make sure that we don't miss you as we're going through the open forum. For anyone in the audience who is joining us, we are recording this session, so it will be available online. So if you aren't comfortable, feel free to turn off your video and just sit back and relax. We're going to be doing a minute of opening statements for each of the candidates, a few icebreakers just to get things moving a little smoothly, because I know these things can be a little stressful. 25 minutes of question and answer. And then we are also going to be opening up the audience to some questions as well. So if you have questions that you might like to ask the candidates, feel free to send a private message to myself. You can also send us a DM on Instagram at WLUSP, or when we get to the period, you can raise your hand and unmute yourself and ask a question directly. And after that, we're going to have a minute of closing statements. So to start off, in the first round, we have Andrew, Ezra, Kianna, and Muna. I hope I'm getting the name right. You can all start with your opening statements. Why don't we start it off with Andrew? You have 1 minute. Just a note for candidates. You're going to have about a minute to answer each question in the interest of time. I'll give you a 10-second warning. If you do go over time, I will try and be lenient and let you finish the sentence, but please try to respect it. Otherwise, we will mute you and cut you off. So Andrew, whenever you're ready, you can start with your opening statements. Everybody, welcome our first round of board of director candidates for the next year.
Well, thank you so much, Aaron. Well, hi everyone, my name is Andrew and I'm running for the chair of the board. Having served 2 terms already on the board of directors, once as the director and the vice chair, I feel that I'm one of the most qualified candidates to go for this position while still maintaining my roots as a director at the core and to serve the students. My platform would primarily focus on the pillars of student engagement, which definitely has been a unique problem this year with the whole COVID situation. Transparency, especially in the areas of finance, to prevent any sort of risk to the organization, and student engagement or even board engagement as well. Because I feel that the best and most important thing as a chair is to get all these ideas that directors present, new and old, and come together so we can come to the most conclusive decision that incorporates everyone's knowledge, and understanding. I want to primarily adhere to board policies, but while still building on the great foundational work that this current board has done and the current president, and working extremely well with the next one.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Andrew. Ezra, you can go up next. You have 1 minute.
Afternoon. Thank you for those watching, whether it's live or the recorded version. My name is Ezra Suniti, and I am running for re-election to the board. I am also considering a run at the vice chair position. However, that has not been set in stone. I am running for 2 reasons. One, I would like to improve on my first term and my performance thus far. And secondly, I would like to establish a better understanding for students between with the difference between the institution and the union. I feel like since over the last 10 months exactly, since classes went online on March 13th, there has been a huge misunderstanding between what the institution of Laurier does and what the students union does. And I think it would be better for everybody, including staff, faculty, and obviously members of the students union, if that distinction was clear. And that's part of my agenda for next year on the board.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ezra. Kianna, you can go next. Introduce yourself. You have 1 minute for your opening statement.
Thanks so much. So my name's Kianna Low-A-Chee, and I'm running for Student Union Board of Directors. I'm in my 3rd year of political science, and I want to make everyone's undergrad experience the best it can be. My platform will focus on advocacy for students, especially in terms of mental health supports, as I understand that COVID has created new challenges for everyone, and some people are struggling to figure out how the student union can help them. So I want to make sure that people know what the student union is doing and that we're acting on their behalf.
Thank you very much. And the final candidate, please go ahead. You'll have 1 minute.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mohamed, and I am running for chair on the board of directors. I am a 3rd year political science student, and being at Laurier as long as I've been, I'm dedicated to creating a Laurier environment that fits for all students. My platform focuses mainly on diversity and inclusion and advocating for students of color. Laurier has many great services tailored for creating a safe environment, especially for marginalized students. And as a chair on the board of directors, I will be dedicating my time into increasing accessibility to these services, because I found from my own experience and experience of my friends and peers that there's not a lot of accessibility and knowledge of all the great services that are tailored to make Laurier such a great school. And that is what I want to use my time if you vote for me as a chair for board of directors. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for the introduction of candidates. We appreciate it. We're going to do a few icebreakers now, just depending on our time, just to get things moving a little bit, get people used to talking. I'm sure they might not be entirely used to this setup, so we'll start with something a little bit fun. We can start with Andrew for the first icebreaker. Andrew. My friend.
Yes. Oh, yes. I thought you can ask the question first.
No, it's just a little bit of tension. If you could give your first year self one piece of advice, what do you think it would be?
Okay. The professional side of me says, don't join as many clubs as I did. Like, I joined everything from like musical theater to German club. But the current hindsight version of me says I should have gone to more parties.
Good answer. I like to hear it, Andrew. Ezra, same question to you. If you had to give your first year self one piece of advice, what do you think it might be?
Well, I think the obvious answer would be to purchase Zoom stock, but realistically speaking, I think that the first year advice the advice that I would give my first year self would to be, don't sweat the little things. The university is a completely new chapter in your life and therefore in history. So understand that you have a fresh chapter ahead of you, and although things might change unexpectedly, continue to write that chapter and continue to learn about not only others, but also yourself. And while doing so, don't sweat the little things, because there's a good chance that if you're struggling, whether it's with academics or anything else, there's probably a chance that others are suffering too.
Absolutely. Totally agree. Kianna, same question to you. What do you think you might give first year Kianna piece of advice?
First year, I would tell my first year self to get out there and go join more clubs, get involved and take chances. Don't be scared of failing or falling flat on your face. People want to see you succeed, and there's no problem with trying things again if you don't get it the first time.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And then Muna, one piece of advice you might give your first year self, what do you think it'd be?
I think it would definitely be to be kinder to myself. I think that nothing is ever as serious as it may be. And now in hindsight, like looking back, I think the dramatics of, oh my God, if I'm late to this tutorial, I'm gonna fail. It's never, ever that serious. And I think that university isn't as hard as it's perceived to be.
I totally agree. All wonderful pieces of advice. I like asking that question because I think it's important for us to reflect on our journey while we're here in university during our undergrad or whatever, and kind of look back on how much growth we've all gone through in that period of time. Good. We're going to do one more before we get back into it. Andrew, if you could live anywhere in the world, I mean, post-pandemic, obviously, where do you think you might want to live? Anywhere in the world?
Okay. Oh, that's tough because I honestly love Canada so much. Maybe might move out to BC with the mountains, get some fresh air, more peaceful life. But there's one city that stuck out to me throughout my life, and that's been Copenhagen. It's like the Venice of the North. Like people there are so nice, almost like Canadians, and they have some of the best pastries I ever had.
That's a good one. Definitely two beautiful areas. All right, perfect. Kianna, you can go next. If you could live anywhere in the world other than where you live now, where do you think you might want to live?
So I'd actually have to agree with Andrew that BC is definitely an amazing option. I've grown up in Canada, and I've never really thought about living outside of Canada, but if I did have to choose, I would probably choose New Zealand, mainly because they have some amazing leadership right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's a solid answer. New Zealand's a beautiful place. Perfect. Muna, same question to you.
I think for me, it would definitely, especially if it's like outside of Canada, it would definitely be London. I spent a few summers there, and there's like a lot of family, and I just love all the museums and the history, and it's so much fun. And I think that would be a very like adventurous life to live out there.
I agree. Beautiful place, rich history. You'll love to see it. Ezra, you can finish this off with this question. Where do you think you might want to live outside of Canada?
I would really love to live in New York, specifically Manhattan. I think that it is an incredible city, and to live somewhere where you really don't need a car, I think is amazing. As somebody who is a horrible driver, with the exception of Grand Theft Auto 5, I think to live in a city that is accessible via public transit and where you can walk anywhere is really, really nice. So certainly, if not Toronto, definitely New York City.
For sure. All very solid answers. I love to hear it, candidates. All right, we're going to move into the Q&A period now. This time we will start with Muna, and we will go Muna, Kianna, Ezra, and Andrew. First question, I think it's probably one of the most important questions to ask. What inspired you to run for the board of directors? And for those who may be a returning director, if you are running for vice chair or chair of the board, if you can tell us a little bit about what inspired you to run for that position in particular. Mona, you'll have 1 minute. You can begin whenever you want.
We were all there, but over the summer with the Black Lives Matter protest, I was with my friends and my peers, and we fought. And there was one specific moment where there was Hamilton police. There was Hamilton police at every high school in Hamilton, and in my high school, I didn't see them. And then I later found out that the police were sort of there to sort of police disabled students who were already segregated from school, and police don't have training to handle with students with various disabilities and whatnot. And that was it was so heartbreaking to me. And especially because I spent so much time at my high school working with all different types of students and making sure that there was a high school that it was a safe environment for everyone, that I realized that and eventually with that protest, we were successful enough to convince the city to remove police from high schools. And not only was that an amazing moment because it was such joy amongst so many young people because we created change, and it was the first thing that I was like directly a part of that led to change and effective change, that I realized that if I want Laurier to be a school that I can say I was there, I was proud of it, I would have to just be as a part of it as I was back when I did that protest over the summer. And I think that, you know, to be proud of something, you have to put in the work. And that really kind of pushed me to go for it.
Strong answer. Thank you. Kianna, the same question to you. What inspired you to run for the board?
So what inspired me to run for the board was honestly seeing Spotted Laurier and seeing the way other students were kind of saying they're struggling with their mental health. Personally, I've experienced it. I understand it. It can be very difficult on a good day, but right now, during the middle of the pandemic, I think it's very challenging for everyone. It's presenting new challenges that we've never faced before, and you're kind of away from your support group in a sense because you don't go to class. Well, you go to class, but you're not seeing your friends in person. It's not quite the same. And I believe that I could be like one of the people who goes on Spotted and complains, or I could be part of that change. I want to listen to those voices who maybe aren't the happiest right now and be able to give them a voice.
Another strong answer. Thank you, Kianna. Ezra, same question to you. What made you want to return to the board and possibly consider running for vice chair as well?
As I mentioned in my opening statement, I would like to improve, and as it pertains to this election, going off of what we've heard from the past two responses, I think that what we've seen, whether it's on social media or via word of mouth, there is a strong disconnect that I might not be able to completely fix, but at least I can try and make better. I think that there's not really a specific moment that really inspired me, as Moon had mentioned. That's just the nature of our lives, the nature of our candidacies. But over time, when I was considering whether I run or not run again, it was those moments that Kianna had mentioned and some others that made me want to do it.
Absolutely. All right. Andrew, same thing to you as well. What inspired you to want to run for chair of the board this year?
I mean, I joined the Students' Union originally because I truly believe that Laurier is #1 in student satisfaction. I chose this university over 8 other institutions, and it was the only one where as soon as I walked in the doors, I felt like I had a family and a home, and I've never regretted that decision. Running for re-election has been a tough decision, but it really has been sparked by, you know, first of all, like, you know, the response on Spotted, as well as Laurier losing that #1 student satisfaction. And that really pains me a lot to know that the school I love so much, students are not finding that same joy at all. You know, and COVID has definitely put a number on things. When I entered the pandemic, for sure, I'm ready to admit that my mental health was not the best. And getting that connection back to Laurier in the summertime, because I was living in Waterloo, as little as it was, really helped me power through that. And I've always been a huge advocate for students, not just through my current past 2 years, trying to bring students, you know, issues, especially Black Lives Matter or in Aboriginal rights, you know, getting these discussions and listening to them and see how can we try our best to make sure that the Students' Union knows and like listens to our students' concerns, but also on my work on the Senate, especially in relation to the past 2 big decisions with giving students that extra week at winter break and the CR decision for spring, fall, and winter. And like these are just kind of like the testaments to why I want to run, but also to me really fiercely wanting to give back to community and trying to dispel the disinformation that we see so rampant on Spotted.
For sure. Thank you, Andrew. This next question is going to be for our new running candidates, Muna and Kianna. I think it'd be a good idea overall for people who are in the audience who may not entirely understand what the board of directors is, the role it serves, how it advocates for students, maybe to get your perspective as to what the board of directors does. So first question for Muna, could you give us your understanding of the role of the board of directors and what a director does?
Sorry. Okay, good. Sorry, that button, that thing where your internet connection is being odd, so I was just making sure it's still working. For me, I think the board of directors, it's really designed to sort of support student voices, as is the whole student union, but specifically that board is, you work with 11 of your other peers to sort of include all the voices of different students, and making sure that everybody's concern is heard, and making sure that the decisions that are being implemented are decisions that support students who feel underheard, or annoyed with the school or whatnot, and just really is just there to make sure that all the grievances the students might feel, especially with Zoom University, are being heard and are being discussed in a manner that will lead to effective change.
Thank you very much. Kianna, same question to you. What in your opinion does the board of directors do, and what is the role of a director for?
Muna gave a lot of really strong points. So to me, it's kind of the same idea of you're the voice for the students. And I think now it's more important than ever to be listening and be there for your peers and be able to make those effective changes, especially with the referendums coming up, like the health and dental. I think that one's really important to vote on. And I also think that it's getting messages out to the students, because I think a lot of students they don't realize what the student union does. When I was doing my nomination package, a lot of people were asking me, well, what is board of directors and what is students union? So I think it's important to listen to them and also make the resources available to them known.
For sure. Thank you. Different question to Ezra and Andrew. Obviously, you guys have a little bit more experience on the board. You were on the board this year. Can you tell us overall how you felt the performance of this year's board was? So critique it just briefly if you could. And let us know where you think the board could improve going into the next year. We can start with Ezra, and you'll have 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Thank you. And then I can head out after this if that's okay. So
Yes.
With regards to critiquing this board, I think at the start of the term, there could have been more of an effort to get to know each other. Obviously, in hindsight, we did not anticipate that we did not know that we would be hosting meetings virtually, but I think that could partially be offset by the fact that we never had to view each other as opponents. Last year, it was an acclaimed board, and I think therefore that led to a very healthy and fun campaign. We didn't have to worry about who would or would not make it. And with regards to the overall performance of this year's board, I think it's been exceptional. Not saying it because I am on it, but I think that given the circumstances, our chair, vice chair, and the other 10 directors have done a stellar job at adjusting to the circumstances. And I'm sure a lot of them wish I had a mute button, but overall, the critique of the board, I think, is really from the start, and it's only gotten better since.
For sure.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Yeah, take care, Ezra. All right, Andrew, you may go next. Provide us with your critique of the board and what you might like to see improved on in the next year.
I will definitely say that the transition of the board from in-person to online was absolutely stellar. To be able to move all the business and everything, especially in such a contentious time at March, where there was a lot of committee meetings going and assignments, that was very impressive by the chair and as well as the full-time staff. Many props to them for that. myself being vice chair, I'll definitely tell you a shortfall of where I felt I was in, which was the board engagement. I was responsible for the socials, and I had some grand plans, like, the all the way to like maybe Canada's Wonderland type of situation, which would have been amazing. But unfortunately, just due to COVID, it forced me to just rely on virtual socials, which I think many can attest is just not as effective. I personally love talking to board members. I call them my bread and butter sessions because I just absolutely love to get to know everyone. It's one of the big reasons why I always try to apply for this job again. It's great. But other things that I will say that the board has done really well on was that there was a lot of, as I said before, miscommunications and misinformation that went unspotted. And I think the board did a great job of actually like addressing these, concerns in the board meetings and just helping to clarify them on records so we could have them available. And we had some topics that were very heated. I think some of the other candidates here who have experience with that in social issues can attest to that. But I think the board did an excellent job trying to have these discussions, but with very balanced views without keeping anything too personal or too politicized. A level head, if you will.
Thank you, Andrew. Good. All right. Next question for our newer candidates. We'll start with Kianna this time. What can you tell us about Robert's Rules of Order? You'll have 1 minute. Do you know what Robert's Rules of Order are, to begin?
I am not familiar with Robert's Rules of Order.
All right, thank you. Candidate Muna, do you have an answer to this question?
No, not as much. I do know that it's something about like a book that's about politics and parliamentary rule, but that is as far as it goes for me, fortunately.
Chair Candidate Andrew, would you be able to go into detail a little bit for the audience and some of us, the candidates that will be joining us today, as to what Robert's Rules of Order is and why it is significant to the board?
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to make it clear that for the new candidates, do not feel bad at all. I was exactly in the same place 2 years ago. Trust me. And I'm a business student, so not even touching poli-sci at that. But in essence, Robert Rules of Orders are simply just the rules in which the board meetings are held at, how motions are set, how speakers lists are made. It's basically a mechanism designed to make sure that the meetings are orderly and that it doesn't become a mishmash of like, just talking over people. To keep things respectful and very parliamentary, actually, if you think about it.
Thank you, Andrew. I know that was a bit of a curveball, so I do apologize. But it is important if you're a board candidate. I would take an opportunity to get yourself familiarized with Robert's Rules, just because when you do enter in the role, there's going to be a lot of information overload. And so it'd be a good idea to sort of get yourself familiarized and comfortable with some of these elements beforehand. And as Joseph said, Robert's Rules are, they're very easy to know. They're not very easy to find, unfortunately. All right, another question for the newer board candidates, Kianna and Muna. Who did you talk to before you thought about applying for this this role as a director? Was there anyone you approached beforehand? We can begin this time with Kianna.
So I'm friends with one of the directors who's currently sitting, Kayla Hahn, and she gave me a lot of encouragement to go out and do this. I was kind of unsure about this at first, and she gave me the advice I needed and really supported and encouraged me in order to come out here and be successful.
That's great. Thank you. Same question to you, Muna. Is there anybody that you talked to beforehand? Any advice you got?
Yeah, it's it was the same person, Director Hahn. Kayla and I have been friends since first year, and so she was really great, explaining how the whole campaign goes and why it's important that I run and whatnot. She's been so supportive, and I don't know if she's watching, but I'm super grateful for her.
Well, I guess great job, Kayla. And yeah, as Chair Hussein said, Samit said, the board does some great training, so you guys won't have to worry about anything Robert's Rules related. In the interest of time, I do want to make sure that we leave an opportunity for the audience to ask a few questions if they do have any. So if you want to unmute yourself or raise your hand, ask a question to any of the candidates, now is your opportunity to do so. Perfect. We can start with Samid.
This question is for the chair candidates. I think so, Muna and Andrew. What is the relationship between the chair and the president?
We will start this time with Muna.
I believe it's sort of like, from my understanding, I believe it's sort of almost like a respectful mutual relationship where we both assist each other in making sure that the students' needs are met. But it's more maybe even, I would say, advisory as well.
Thank you for your answer. Andrew, you may answer the question as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. I would say the relationship is much more professional, with clear conflicts of interest being laid out, because technically speaking, the chair is above organizationally to the president. Although the president has much more sway and does a lot more of the actual business with the operations side of the university, the chair is able to help steer the president on that strategic point of where should focus be made, and to keep the president in checks, such as the checks and balances of any important office.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Any other questions from the audience at this time? I want to give you guys an opportunity. Thank you, Osman. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is a question for all candidates. What prior experiences within the Students' Union would you guys have to help you transition into the role of board of directors? Or for the returning directors, what roles in the Students' Union would help you excel in your position in the board of directors?
An important question. Thank you, Osman. We'll start this time with Andrew.
Okay, well, I have a lot of a myriad of experience. If you're talking about students associations, I was the VP of Finance for Students Offering Support, as well as the Supply Chain Association. That provide me great financial and accounting backgrounds that had proven really successful, in some of the committees, and as well as meeting discussions, especially when the president provides their budget. I also am a volunteer for ALC and am an ALC tutor. So I think that provides me really a great opportunity to meet some students, as well as, addressing their particular concerns, because each student is different and how we help them out is unique in their own way. And that tutoring aspect has also really fostered that love of teaching and learning and supporting things, not me talking to someone, but us working together so then we can both achieve that goal, while addressing said unique predicaments.
For sure. Thank you, Andrew. Kianna, same question to you.
So I think what makes me qualified for the board is I haven't necessarily been involved in the same ways that Andrew has, but being a student and understanding, kind of being shy and almost a little tentative to go out and do stuff, as well as being an ALC student myself, I think being able to understand people is what will be my greatest asset. I've been through a lot of struggles with school, and so I think I can relate and understand.
Perfect. Thank you, Kianna. And then same question to you, Muna, as well, before we move to the next question.
Yeah, just to really build off of what Kianna said, because we kind of do have the same, I guess not experience with the student, lack of experience with the student union. But I do think that from just my years of Laurier and speaking to just a whole host of students, with poli-sci, there's a lot of professors that are kind of reading heavy, so you kind of have to make relationships to succeed in their courses. And so being able to form these alliances and friendships with a wide range of students, I was able to just understand exactly what we all struggle with, what we may struggle with differently, and hopefully I can bring that to the board as well.
Thank you, candidates. We have a question from Kayla. Go ahead, Kayla. Kayla, you had your hand raised. No? All right. Is there anybody else who has a question? Joseph, thank you. You go ahead.
Hey there, folks. This is an open question to all of you. So, an important role of the board is to be a check and balance on the president. Knowing that next year's president may have ambitious plans to revitalize the Laurier community, how might you keep them accountable?
It's an important question. Thank you, Joseph. We'll start this time with Kianna, and then we will go Muna and Andrew.
So I think the ways in which I would keep the president accountable is kind of challenging their opinion when if I don't agree with it necessarily, obviously, to facilitate an open and respectful discussion and kind of be the voice that they may not necessarily have in their own head, and kind of giving them the different perspectives.
Thank you very much. Muna, you are next.
I think to hold the president accountable, it really falls on sort of, what their plans are specifically, and then also being sort of like a second sober thought, where it's sort of like, well, this may be ambitious, but I think it might not align with all students, or this may be tailored to sort of a very small bunch of students where it may do more harm than good, and sort of just being an objective thought and voice where, where we can both maintain a professional relationship while also disagreeing with one another.
Thank you very much. And Andrew, if you'd like to finish this question off as well.
Yeah, I think they both speak really well on that social aspect of the checks and balances. Now, I'm going to have to indulge you with my business student side. For sure, budgetary, checks, reviewing it and having open and transparent communication to the board is really important, especially if the president has ambitious plans. I myself have voted against certain plans if it didn't make any sense and it was above a certain threshold of which I was comfortable with approving. Not to say that the plan was bad or anything, it was just that more information has to be provided for me to feel that the students' union should put up with this risk. Also, I think it's real. I find that the finance part is really important because there was a scandal a couple years ago at Ryerson where their president was able to embezzle a couple tens of thousands of dollars and spend on shisha and Airbnb and the whatnot. And that's something that, as funny as it was to see at the time, I really don't want to have that at Laurier. So that would be where my focus would lie on.
Good answer. Perfect. We have time for one more question. I do want to leave some time for the candidates to have a closing statement. So if you could answer the question quickly, candidates, what is something that you would like to change or improve on in your role as a future director? I'm assuming this is speaking either personally or professionally. What is something that you might like to change or improve upon? We can start this time with Muna.
For myself, I think something that I would like to change is that, we all kind of come into this race alone with our own specific platforms. And I think as a board and as students sort of see us as one body, I think that there should be a greater emphasis on us helping one another to sort of implement our platforms together, as opposed to it being so individualistic. I think that it would be really great if we could all help each other, fulfill our dreams, because everybody, especially all the candidates and whatnot, have really great platforms and really great ideas that would just, benefit the school greatly.
For sure. As a board, you guys are going to be working as a team, as a collective. So I think that's a very strong answer. Kianna, same question to you. What's something you might like to change or improve on as a future director?
So I really liked what Muna was saying about working together, and I definitely think that's important. I grew up playing a lot of team sports, so I understand how important it is to be working together. If you have one person who's kind of not working with the team or doing their own thing, it can throw a lot of things off. So I want to make sure we're working together, not only with each other as chairs on the board of directors, but with the student body. I'd definitely like to see some improvements in terms of mental health services, especially right now, people struggling.
For sure. Thank you. Andrew, same question to you. What might you like to change or improve on in the role of chair?
I would like to improve on, a bit personally, but also in the board, would be overambition. Because sometimes some board members come in, including myself, come with some amazing, great ideas we presented, and then we get shut down and we get disheartened, and that's like a really vicious cycle there. Like to quote President Obama, better is not perfect, but it's still good, right? And even small little steps and changes into the right direction, I think is, a very important thing. And to kind of like also talk about what the two other candidates discussed, I think is really important, is that cohesive message that the board unity, that we come together, because when the board is together, we can make some really great changes and advocate for some really important things. Like for this election right now, the referendum questions are really important. The whole board together has gone behind that in support of it. So that's something that I think I would like to see improve, and what I can improve on too myself.
For sure. Thank you very much. Candidates, we're going to move into the closing statements now. Audience, if you have further questions that you might like to ask the candidates, there is another open forum next Thursday. Please make sure you're sending any questions you might have either to the CRO Nitty or myself at WLUSP on social media, and we'll make sure that we ask. Candidates, you have, we'll do 1 minute for closing statements, and we can start with Kianna.
Sorry, I had to find the mute button again. So this year with the health and dental referendum, offering the chance to increase coverage for mental health supports and also have oral contraceptives covered by insurance, I think making your voice is more important than ever. With my position, I intend to listen to what you need and what you want in order to advocate for students. I understand the struggle of of feeling like your voice isn't being heard, or feeling that you're unsure of who to turn to in order to see change. And that's why I want to be on board of directors.
Thank you very much, Kianna. Andrew, 1 minute for your closing statement. Go ahead.
I'd like to thank everyone else who decided to attend here and listen to all the wonderful candidates to speak and to hear the inspirations that we have for the upcoming term. 2020 was a hard year for everyone, heartfelt in both mentally and emotionally for a lot of students, academically and socially. But I feel that with the dawn of 2021, there's a real opportunity to make some amazing changes. The referendum questions are just the first step. The SLL for Brantford and Waterloo are one of the most key things to allow the Students' Union to do its work. And myself as a chair will always be there if chosen to advocate for students and make sure that the board runs efficiently and smoothly while maintaining all student concerns as its highest priority.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Candidate Muna, if you'd like to finish this off, you'll have 1 minute.
I also struggle with the mute button. But yeah, no, honestly, all I really want to say is, as a student of Laurier and a person of color, a greater knowledge of the services that the school offers, as well as expanding those services with the referendum, would have such a positive impact on anybody's experience, myself even included, not only as a board member, but as a student. And then fortunately, our school does provide great services, and hopefully the referendum will lead to even greater services, as Kianna said, with the mental health supports and whatnot. And I think that, we work together and we really amplify, especially marginalized voices. I think that we can really make Laurier a school that, everybody can be proud of and even enjoy coming to, regardless of whether it's virtually and hopefully one day before my program ends in person. And, and I hope that, watching this open forum, gave everybody who's listening and watching a greater in-depth of who I am and what my platform is about. And I hope that on January 27th, that I'm the one you want to vote for.
Thank you very much, Chair Candidate Muna, Chair Candidate Andrew, and Board Candidate Kianna. Thank you very much for coming to today's open forum to get the chance to talk to us and let us pick your brains a little. We appreciate it. We're going to be taking a brief 1-minute break before we come back. We'll come back at 1:51 for the next round of board candidates. Those who are in the next round, can you make sure that you put the positions that you are running for in your name, just to make it a little bit easier for us. And we will see you all soon. Candidates, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, I'll give everybody a second to get back in, get any stragglers that are joining us. All right, so it looks like for the second round we have Francesco, or do you prefer Frankie joining us?
Either way works.
Perfect, thank you. We got Frankie, we have Aidan, and I can't remember, Osman, are you running as well?
No.
Thank you, just double checking. Do we have any other candidates that are supposed to be joining us today? No, perfect, all right. Then it's just you two, we'll have plenty of time. No need to stress. So welcome board candidates. It's great to see you. Thank you for joining us at today's open forum. Just a reminder for everyone, there will be another open forum event next Thursday, starting at the same time, same schedule. If you guys would like to attend there, and if you have any further questions for the board candidates. So to get started, just to let you guys know how this is going to work, we are going to have 1 minute for opening statements from each of you. Talk about yourselves, talk a bit about why you're running, etc. We're going to have some icebreaker questions just to get things started off, loosen things up a little. I know these kinds of events can be a little intimidating, a little nerve-wracking if you're not used to them. So we're going to try and have a good time, get you guys comfortable with it. Then we'll have about 25 minutes of question and answer period, where I will also let the audience ask some questions if they would like, just like the last round. And then we will have 1 minute of closing statements. So whenever the candidates are ready, we can get right into it. Frankie, if you would like to start with your opening statement, you will have 1 minute whenever you are ready.
Thank you. So hi, everyone. My name is Francesco. I'm a third-year student here at Laurier. During my time at Laurier, I've had plenty of experience on campus and off campus and mingling with students. I've been an executive and president of many clubs, and I've been an active brother of Sigma Chi since last February. On the board of directors, I plan on advocating for much more transparency, direct accountability for all students. I will also work extremely hard to bolster club engagement to help us stay connected through social distancing. In addition, I will advocate for more funding towards mental health services so that all students aren't faced with such long wait lists during these difficult times. Through my experience, I have learned to collaborate and lead in a very effective and strong manner. And you can count on me to promote a more unified school, a more accountable students union, and a much more involved year, even though we are socially distanced.
Thank you very much, Francesco. Aidan, you get 1 minute for your opening statement as well.
Awesome, thank you. So yeah, I guess I don't really have anything formally prepared, so sorry if I kind of stumble on my words a little bit, but yeah, I'm Aidan McCarthy. I'm a third-year business student at Laurier. I kind of wanted to run just because I think all my favorite experiences throughout my time at Laurier have been in extracurriculars. Like I'm not really big, I didn't really go to much class and whatnot in first year. So yeah, I just really enjoyed the extracurriculars and I want to help kind of other people to enjoy that as well. I think especially with COVID, like I've noticed in my own sort of clubs that I'm in, like it's been difficult to engage people online, and it's been hard to kind of keep up and kind of keep people having fun. And yeah, so I want to help try and sort of expand on that and make it easier for clubs to do that. And then also, like lots of the other candidates have mentioned, like I know it's been a time that's tough for everybody's kind of mental health and whatnot. So I want to try and support that in any way I can. And then finally, just trying to sort of better communicate between the administration and the school and kind of keep transparency. Like again, other candidates kind of said, I think is really, really a good idea. And I hope to be able to support that during my time on the board.
Perfect. Thank you, candidates. That's a good segue into our first icebreaker, talking a little bit about experiences and memories. I know this year's been a little bit of a, it's been a little bit unfortunate for some people, been a little tough, been a little difficult, a little negative. So I think it's important for us to remember some of the positive things, why we came to Laurier, sort of what we got out of it. So we'll start with Frank this time. What can you tell us about one positive memory or experience during your time at Laurier that stands out to you?
Sure. So I've been a competitor of mock court cases, which is a club that unites Waterloo students and Laurier students to work on a mock case to advocate for a certain position as a defense counsel or as the Crown counsel. Through these experiences, I've really learned how to work with people. I've made some lifelong friends there. We had some really good times, and I am still working with this club. They provide me plenty of experiences, which I know I will carry on in my future. And that club in general, my time advocating for a certain position there has really made some lifelong memories that I know I will keep as a staple of my time at Laurier.
Thank you very much. Aidan, same question to you. What is a powerful memory or experience from your time at Laurier that sticks out to you?
Yeah, so I guess I don't know. I was sort of maybe a weird answer because it's not really technically a Laurier club or association, but I'm a member of the University of Waterloo Formula Motorsports team, and I was able to go to the Michigan International Speedway and present our business case to the judges there for the 2019 competition. And yeah, it was really cool. I really enjoyed being able to travel with a group of all my teammates and everything like that, and going to the competition, living just a little bit. We like stayed for a week just in the area around the track and kind of seeing all the other students and everything. It was really one of the most fun experiences I've had at the school, and yeah, I think that would be my pick.
Perfect. Thank you, both candidates. Now, this next question, very important to me. I need to know pet peeves. What's your worst? What's your biggest pet peeve? Frankie, you go first.
My biggest pet peeve is it's kind of a weird one, but when people come into my apartment and don't wipe their shoes. That's my biggest pet peeve. You know, if I spend all day like mopping the floors and vacuuming, you know, at least like wipe your shoes or something. I remember it was sometime in O week last year. Somebody came into my apartment, their shoes were full of mud, and they just walked all over my apartment right after I'd cleaned it. So that sort of started off this whole pet peeve thing about people walking in without wiping your shoes. Yeah, that's my biggest one. I'd say it really peeves me.
That's a strong one. Disrespectful. Good. Aidan, same question to you. Big pet peeve. What is it?
Yeah, I guess this is kind of a tough one. I think was I don't know. I can be a bit anal, so I think I probably have a lot of pet peeves. But I think similarly to Francesco, my biggest one would probably just be kind of my apartment, kind of people coming in and messing with it, not getting things out of order relative to how I kind of keep them, or yeah, just kind of along those lines.
Honestly, good answers. It's always is frustrating when other people come into your space and they mess it up. Don't mess with another person's things. All right, thank you very much, candidates. I think we're good for icebreakers. We can get into some of the questions now. So one of the most important questions, obviously you guys are new to the board. I don't know you personally. You may be also new to the Students' Union as a whole. What inspired you guys to want to run for the board of directors this year? We'll start this time with Aidan.
So yeah, I guess I'm totally new to the student union. This is kind of my first experience with the student union. I did have a couple friends last year who were on the board, so I was familiar through them. And then there's actually Francesco sent out his nomination form to me, and I was like, oh hey, I told myself last year that I would do that, so that's why I then I sent a request to get my own signing form, and yeah, here I am.
Nice. Same question to you, Francesco. What inspired you?
Yeah, the whole direct accountability aspect to the board really enticed me to run. I believe in providing more transparency and accountability, and the board of directors is the perfect way to do this. My platform of transparency and showing students how the board works through frequent social media posts will persuade people to run for student elections and to find out how the board works and the change that they can make. And that's the impact I want to leave on the board, to show that students can really do something to hold elected officials accountable.
For sure. I think that segues into a good follow-up question. If elected, what would you guys like to do or change as a student director on the board? We'll start with Aidan. What kind of change do you want to affect or implement?
Also, yeah, I think kind of like I said at the sort of intro bit, like I think I'd really like to try and help clubs to have more resources to try and engage members during this online term. Like I know we can all hope that the vaccine will be distributed quickly and that we won't really need to suffer with this next year. But if in that case we do, I think I'd like to be able to support that. And then also, like I said, trying to expand mental health resources, which again, like for the referendum vote for healthcare, I think is a really important one in this election. Because yeah, we do need these resources for students, and I think especially with students being isolated and everything like that these days, it's really really tough. And aside from that, I think I just want to kind of generally try and impact the board and try and keep people accountable and keep the school accountable to their students, and ensure that the student voices are heard by all those involved in the student union as well as the administration related sort of governing entities.
For sure. Thank you, Aidan. Frankie, same question to you.
So a main pillar of my platform is promoting more club engagement. And this will be done by, promoting more club events, such as more information about boothing events for students, providing more accessible resources for clubs to engage in their activities and things like that. This will be especially important for first-year students because one of the main ways that they can find their passions, find lifelong friends, is through clubs. So I'll be pushing the students' union to provide more inclusivity in clubs, and I will be pushing them to provide many more resources for them to host their events virtually. Secondly, I plan to improve mental health services or wellness center services. It's no secret that the wait lines for the wellness center have been very long, even pre-COVID and during the lockdowns currently. So providing more services for the wellness center will put less stress on the system and give more students the services that they require. And more importantly, putting direct accountability upon the president to fulfill their promises is a main part of my platform.
I totally agree, which segues into another good follow-up question. What is your plan for holding the president accountable while in this role? We will begin first with Aidan.
So yeah, I guess for starters, I'm not really too afraid to hold my voice back. So I think if the president was doing something that I wasn't comfortable with or thought I had any issues with, I would definitely speak up and I would let him know my opinion. Maybe even just like a personally message, but also at board meetings and things of that nature. I think trying to advocate for what I believe is right and what I believe should be our sort of policy and movement forward is something that I think is important. So I wouldn't really hesitate to do that, I think. And that would be sort of my plan of attack.
For sure. Thank you. Francesco, same question to you. How do you plan to hold the president accountable if elected?
So I will stress that the president holds consistent, possibly live videos on Instagram so that they can directly answer the questions that students want. In addition, I plan on providing many more avenues so that students can learn about what the government is doing, about what the president plans to do, so that they can ask questions that they want to be heard. Providing more transparency to find out what they're doing, how they're doing it, and having a direct avenue to hold them accountable through live videos and answering through direct messages is the perfect way to do this virtually, since we can't physically go to the president's office and say, you're doing this wrong. Direct messages, live videos, these are ways to put people on the spot and to make sure that they're being held accountable.
For sure. Thank you, candidates. next question, again, for both candidates. What experiences have you had that you think might make you qualified to be a director on the board? You can start, Aidan. You'll have 1 minute.
Okay, so yeah, so I guess I've been involved on the executives of the Wilfrid Laurier Campus Conservatives for the past 3 years, so I have some experience there. And then also, like I mentioned before, the University Waterloo Formula Motorsports team. I've been a member of there since 2018, and then this year took over as the business team lead. So yeah, I have good experience, I think, in club or campus associations already. And then also just sort of an interesting, I think, fact that sort of helps is I've actually been to a real board meeting for a private company. So it's fun, but I guess my experience is not incredibly relevant, but I think I sort of had an idea of how a board of directors should be run from that, or a limited experience of it.
Cool. Thank you, Aidan. Francesco, same question to you.
Right. So as I explained previously, I've had plenty of experience on campus in clubs. I've served as an executive, vice president, and president of the Laurier Campus Conservatives. I have gained experience as a VP of External Relations for the Laurier Pre-Law Society. And I have served as an executive, and currently I am serving as a team lead on mock court cases. So in my experiences, I've picked up leadership positions in order to lead people effectively and to come to mutual agreements when negotiating about certain issues. I have learned to deal with adversarial coworkers in an effective and professional manner, and guiding discussions towards conflict resolution instead of simply badgering the opponent with my own angry comments about the issue. I've learned to approach it in a calm and collective manner. So in all my experiences, I have learned to communicate effectively, collaborate well with others, lead people in an effective way, and provide a coherent vision for my executive teams.
Good. Solid answers from both candidates. Thank you very much. Next question. You may or may not be familiar. Directors on the board have the opportunity to be a part of several committees that are involved in various aspects of Laurier and the student body. Are there any committees in particular that you might be interested in sitting on if elected? We can start with Francesco this time. Any committees you might be interested in?
Right. What committee I'm very interested in is the Student Advocacy Committee for renting students. I believe students need to know their rights when renting. They need to know that they're not always going to be in the best interest of their landlord, and they need to know the avenues necessary to take to prevent some dangerous actions by landlords and to prevent some dirty business practices by landlords. And I have attended many of those sessions. I believe that they were very informative. They've helped me through my own struggles with my landlord, and I want to provide more information for students on how to deal with adversarial landlords.
Wonderful. Thank you. Aidan, same question to you. What committees would you be interested in?
Yeah, so I was unaware that there was committees, but I guess once I find out what they all are, I'll make a more educated decision at that point.
For sure. Thank you. All right. As potential board candidates, have either of you attended any board meetings this year to find out more about how they operate and how they proceed, etc.? Francesco?
I have not attended board meetings, unfortunately. I do know that they are quite long affairs. I do understand that there's a big time commitment with them, and that there is a lot of information to pick up once I start going on a board. So I'm looking forward to getting my voice on the board. I understand it's a pretty big time commitment in the actual board meeting itself, solid 3 hours from what I understand it. And I'm looking forward to attending my board meetings and just adjusting to them as I move along.
Perfect. Thank you. And same question to Aidan. Have you been to any of the board meetings this year or in the past?
Yeah, no, I also have not been to a student union board meeting.
All right. Thank you. Question for both candidates again. What is your definition of transparency? And what is the role of transparency when it comes to the board? We will start this time with Aidan.
So yeah, I think my definition of transparency is just being clear with all the stakeholders involved about both your intentions and the actions you're going to take in order to realize those intentions. And I think it's really important with the student union, the board of directors, because we are sort of providing the student body with we're providing the student body's opinion to policy and sort of trying to guide the student union's long-term objectives, which will then enhance the student body's sort of actions in life. So I think it's just important for us to kind of make sure that we can communicate clearly to students what we want to change and how we're actually going to make these changes.
For sure. Thank you. And same question to Frankie as well. Your definition of transparency and why you think it is important when it comes to the board.
Right. So my definition of transparency is being open and honest with your constituents. In addition, it is not having many convoluted avenues such that people cannot guide themselves through the legislative process. In addition, transparency is opening up many of the processes to the public so that they can have their input and so that they can see what the government is doing. And transparency is incredibly important, especially for the students' union, considering that they have so much influence and power over courses, over clubs, over finances, and things like that. I believe that there should have been a bit more transparency, especially with the recent financial decisions to health plans that the students' union has made. I aim to not have that kind of event happen again through more transparency, because all it does is make people feel as if the students' union cannot do anything and that they're not working in their best interests. So transparency is incredibly important for legitimacy as well.
Wonderful. Thank you, candidates. We have a question from the audience. Are there any candidates here that are interested in running for either chair or vice chair? Aidan or Francesco, are either of you potentially interested in running for these roles?
I am interested in running for vice chair.
Okay.
It's not off the table right now, but it's definitely open to me, and it's most likely a great possibility.
Wonderful. Thank you. So obviously, as vice chair, it's important to help hold the other members of the board accountable as they assist the chair in that. So as an extension, if you are interested in potentially running for the vice chair role, could you give us a critique of the current board and how you might improve their overall performance in the next term, if given the opportunity?
Absolutely. So currently, I find that the board members do not communicate that much with students. I think we all can remember that board members, they did a fantastic job adjusting to COVID, but they could have communicated a little bit better with their students and with the constituents that they're supposed to represent. On their pages they can say, DM me for any suggestions you want to have. DM me if you have any questions about the processes of the board. Certain things like these, like reaching out to students individually, saying, how's it going? These are what I plan to do. What do you think of this? What do you want me to improve on? That constant engagement shows people that we care, because we do, and we want to create real change. So as vice chair of the board, I plan to promote much more engagement with students directly, and providing many more avenues so that they can message each individual board member to critique their decisions and to add more ideas on what to add in government.
Wonderful. Thank you for your answer, Francesco. Question for both candidates while we wait for anybody else who might want to ask a question. Obviously, if you're going to be working on the board, you're going to be working as a member of a team. Sometimes when you're working with a team, there may be disagreements that are inevitable. People will disagree. They might not agree with your perspective. So that being said, how are you going to work with directors who may not agree with you or your perspectives, who might disagree with you in general? Aidan, we can start with you.
Yeah, so I think for me, I don't really mind when people disagree with me. I think it's kind of healthy to have disagreements. So if other directors disagree with my opinions or the direction I want to take, I would just simply welcome us all to sort of have an open discussion about it, and that at the end of that discussion as a board, we can vote on what direction we want to go in. And if the majority wants to go not my way, that's the way it is, and that's the way we'll go. And yeah, I think that was kind of the simplest way, in my opinion, and I think an effective way.
Good, thank you. Francesco, same question to you.
Right. This actually reminds me of a story from my past experiences. So, in the past summer, or the past couple of summers ago, I worked for a lawyer as a legal secretary. So, I called insurance adjusters. I made claimants to the Human Rights Tribunal, and working with insurance adjusters is not the easiest thing to do. They are quite adversarial. They are quite rude at times, and it's very hard to keep your cool and to negotiate with them. And I'll never forget this piece of advice that the lawyer gave me. He said, look at the person you're arguing with as a person and not as an idea. So if you look at the person you're arguing with as somebody who has legitimate interests, who have real goals they want to make to better the situation, you can negotiate on a middle ground in an effective way. And the way I plan to do this is by, number one, looking at them as people and not opponents. And number two, talking to them in a very professional, calm, and cordial manner so that we can both come to a mutual decision on how to go about the situation.
Good. Thank you, candidates. We still have a few minutes left in this section. So if there's anybody from the audience who has a question that they might like to ask one or both of the candidates, you may feel free to raise your hand, unmute yourself, throw a question in the chat box before we move into closing statements. Andrew, feel free to ask your question.
Hi, this is a question for both of the candidates for the board. I just want to know, so one of the very important things of the job is, as many of you guys said, this addressing student concerns and like hearing these students' opinions and bringing them to the table. Now, another part of the job is that maintain that conflict of interest. What are you going to do in a situation where, if, let's say, a student that you know and have a more personal relationship wants you to bring forward an agenda to motion on the table? How would you address that, given if you had that conflict?
Good question. We'll start with Aidan.
Also, yeah, I think for in this case, it's in my opinion, you just have to ask them to bring it forth with another director. Like if you have a personal relationship with that student and they're trying to get you to push their agenda, I think you're right. There is a conflict of interest, and it'd be unfair for you to be the person presenting that, because you'll obviously want to support your friend and could kind of give undue influence. So yeah, you just tell them, here's the other directors. Go approach one who you don't know.
Good. Thank you for your response, Aidan. Francesco, anything you might want to add to that answer?
Right. So if a friend of mine wants to advance their personal agenda through me, I would remind them that I'm not only representing them, but I'm representing the entire student body. If their concerns are legitimate, not necessarily only self-interested, like not just advocating for more funds towards a particular club that my friend runs, then I'll bring them forward if this issue is shared by a significant portion of other students. As Aidan described, I believe that there is a conflict of interest available when my own friend wants to bring a concern to me. So I would say, so first of all, I would consult with other constituents and say, what do you think about this? Should I bring this forward? And then I would say, bring it up with another board director so that there is no conflict of interest.
Good. Thank you, both candidates. Are there any other final questions from the audience before we move into closing statements? Good. All right. Thank you. We have a couple here. I'm assuming this is for both candidates. What ideas or initiatives do you have to better connect with the Laurier ownership, which is to say the Laurier student body? We'll start this time with Aidan. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think just kind of remaining open to people reaching out to me and kind of keep my contact information available to students and always listening to their concerns is kind of my main sort of idea of how I'd approach that. I think there maybe is potentially more effective means to also try and solicit student opinion. So I'd be interested to try and work with other directors, try and come up with those sorts of ideas. But aside from that, yeah, just kind of remaining open. And then should I go on to answer the second, or no, I guess you only
Yeah, I'll ask that one next. Don't worry. Francesco, same question to you. Ideas or initiatives for connecting with the Laurier ownership?
Right. So to connect with the Laurier ownership, we have to be open and honest about what we are doing and transparent about what we are doing. So frequent communication between the two bodies is absolutely necessary. This will promote a more unified government. It will promote more dialogue so that we can see where we disagree, where we want to improve, and things like that. So promoting possibly more meetings together, possibly more communications together, and as vice chair of the board, I plan to encourage students to reach out to those in other branches of government so that we can get more connected and more efficient and unified in how we get things done.
For sure. And the second question, obviously Laurier is a multi-campus school. The Students' Union is a multi-campus organization. So as a board, you are expected to help equitably represent both campuses. So how would you, as a board member, help to ensure that both campuses are equitably represented? So equally representing the students from each campus. We'll start this time with Aidan.
So yeah, I guess I actually personally don't really know any students from the Brantford campus, so I don't really have any specific ideas on this, but I would obviously kind of remain open to anybody from the Brantford campus wanting to get in touch with me with their concerns, and I would listen to those concerns fairly as I would to somebody in the Waterloo campus. And aside from that, when other board members bring forward concerns from the Brantford campus, I'm going to make sure to give them a fair evaluation as I would for any other sort of issue that was brought up.
Thank you. Francesco, same question. How would you make sure both campuses are equitably represented?
So to ensure that both campuses are accurately represented, I plan to promote club engagement on both campuses. And this is a way to unify both campuses to say, regardless of where we are, we can stay connected between our campuses. We are virtual now, so we can encourage Laurier students from Waterloo to engage with clubs in Brantford and vice versa. And we can encourage the Brantford clubs to be more engaging with their own students. In addition to that, I also love Aidan's idea of, possibly reaching out to anybody who's in Brantford, responding to anybody who directly DMs me who is from Brantford, and treating them as if they are students on the campus because they are from the same school. We are representing them. They are equals. So treating their issues and their concerns at value of what Laurier at Waterloo's are.
Thank you very much. We still have a few minutes left in this session. If there are any final questions that the audience may like to ask, feel free. Otherwise, we will move into the closing statements for the candidates. Good question, Sumid. What is an in-camera session? Can either of the candidates tell me what an in-camera session is and what it is used for?
I'm just like shot in the dark. I'm not really too certain, but like filming a meeting that you're having and having it available on recording. No.
That was my guess as well, just filming a meeting that you have for board transparency.
Both good answers. It's another one of those curveball questions. Are there any directors present who would like to elaborate on what an in-camera session is and what it is used for?
Andrew, do you want to take this?
Oh,
Andrew,
sure. Okay, guys. Good tries. Same thing that got me too when I first did it. So an in-camera session is actually a session which is not transparent. It's actually closed doors, so only board members or specific people who a board requests are able to stay inside. It is recorded, but it's not published, to the wider student population.
It's equal purposes for accountability, but also security of any sensitive information that does not want to be shared.
Yes.
But it is good to know because you will be having in-camera sessions if you are a director. So thank you to Sumid. Any final questions before we move into closing remarks? No? Perfect. All right. Candidates, we have plenty of time, so I'll give you 2 minutes if you need us. Any final remarks you may want to say? Anything to the Laurier ownership, to your potential voters? Francesco, you can begin whenever you're ready.
So thank you everyone for coming. I hope you can recognize me as a qualified candidate to unify everybody on the board, everybody in Senate, everybody in Board of Governors, and everybody to provide a very unified and accountable and efficient process. I'm extremely confident, based on what I've heard today in both sessions, that we will have a very productive and impactful year on the board. On the board of directors, I will be a voice that you need to advocate for your interests. I will advocate for more mental health support, more avenues for club outreach, and more direct accountability with the president. I hope you can recognize me as a responsible, professional, and ambitious leader that this school needs.
Thank you very much. Aidan, same to you, 2 minutes for any closing remarks you may want to make.
Yeah, so I guess I just want to kind of say thank you everybody for coming out and for helping support this the student union, the election process and everything. And yeah, aside from that, I'm excited to be able to serve on the board next year. I think it's going to be a really great year. Like Francesco said, I think we're going to have a team of great directors, and hopefully we can institute some real positive, effective change for Laurier and for the student union.
Wonderful. Well, board candidate Aidan, vice chair candidate Francesco, thank you very much for your time and for joining us today. We appreciate getting the chance to pick your brain, got to talk to you a little bit. Ladies and gentlemen, your 2 other potential board candidates for the year, thank you. We're going to be taking a slight break before we move into the final session of today's open forum, which is going to be the presidential open forum. So again, gentlemen, everybody, thank you for joining us today. And we will be back at 2:35, so a little under 10 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care. All right. We're going to give everybody a chance to get in, get settled, get themselves ready. Grab your drinks, grab your snacks if you need them. Presidential candidates, thank you for joining us today. It's wonderful to see you. The way this is going to work, got a fairly ample amount of time for today's open forum session. So I want to leave plenty of room for audience questions if we have any. The way it's going to work is presidential candidates are going to get 5 minutes for their opening statements. Plenty of time, shouldn't need it all. Don't feel pressured to use it all, but you have as much time as you need to talk about whatever you find significant. Then we are going to move into a 30-minute Q&A period, followed by 3 minutes each of closing statements. So welcome everybody. Presidential candidates, if you could do something for me quickly, just rename yourself and put president in it so that everybody who's in the audience can find you a little bit easier. Few housekeeping things. The way this is going to work is you're probably going to get a certain amount of time to answer per question. Might be 1.5 to 2 minutes, depending on the kind of question it is. I will give you a 10-second timer when you are approaching the end of that. And if you go over, I'll be a little bit lenient, but please do not take advantage of it. Otherwise, if you need me to repeat or clarify questions, feel free to. And we can get started with today's open forum. For anybody who is joining us, if you have questions you would like to ask the candidates as we go along, feel free to drop them in the chat box and I will look at them. You can DM them directly to us at WLUSP on social media. And there are also a number of other events coming up that you guys can attend if you want to think on some questions that you might like to ask the candidates. There is an open forum next Thursday. There are 2 presidential debates next Monday and the following Monday. So if you guys have anything you want to ask them, you'll have plenty of opportunities to do so after today as well. So presidential candidates, welcome. And we can begin with the opening introductions and opening statements. Would either candidate like to go first? Perfect. We'll start with Joseph then. Yeah, we'll start with Pega then. Go ahead. You have 5 minutes, plenty of time.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Pekka Jamiloff, better known as PJ. I am a student at the Waterloo campus, double majoring in political science and sociology. I have a lot of experience working with administration. I am currently on the Board of Governors and the Senate in my first year, so I will be continuing in my second year next year. I have been at Laurier since 2017, and I have found such a great community. I'm also a member of Alpha Phi sorority here on the Waterloo campus, and I can think of no better way to give back to this school than to run for this election. I have a very strong platform from what I understand, and it's available on votepj2021.com, but also the Your Students Union website. I strongly believe in mental health resources being available to all. And I think that one of my biggest platform points is mental health and sustainability. I've worked very diligently with my team and talking to different administrative bodies on how to best advocate for the students, how we can set goals and also make sure that they're reasonable and things that we are able to accomplish. I understand that COVID has been very difficult for many of the students here. So I really hope that we can make sure that they're having a safe, but also a great experience here at the Waterloo campus, Brantford campus, and so on. I don't have much else to say because I will keep going too far into detail. So I'll just leave it at that.
No worries. There will be plenty of opportunities for you to elaborate today. Yes, thank you for the round of applause, Ty. Joseph, you may go ahead with your opening remarks. You have 5 minutes. Feel free to take all or little of the time.
Thanks, Aaron and Pega. So I actually want to start today by first offering a word of sympathy for the students, family and friends of Dr. Glink brothers, who was the Dean of the Faculty of Music, passing late last December. Dr. Carruthers and I met when I delivered a singing gram to his office in second year. And then when we later met on the Board of Governors during my upstart, he was really keen to help me find my footing when I was really nerve-wracked. I wouldn't be where I am today without his welcome embrace. And now that I have a public platform to share that, it's been a little time, but I wanted that moment to share my sympathies with the well-wishers. So to the topic at hand, it can't be denied that our community has suffered as a result of the last 11 months of shutdown. Amid the ongoing pandemic and the effective shutdown of campus activity, the Laurier community and campuses have faced the most unprecedented challenges that this university has ever seen. As Ontario and Canada at large acclimate to the new normal, we're still uncertain about what the future holds for our two campuses, especially as we enter this fall. But our shared sense of belonging and community gives us enduring optimism. Our campuses will reopen sooner rather than later, and that when the COVID crisis has dissipated, it will be our shared responsibility to rebuild the life and the atmosphere that our university embodies and deserves. I believe that when that time comes, I will be the royal shepherd to rebuild that atmosphere at Laurier. My experiences over a 5 going on 6 year career are a bit tough to narrow into 3 minutes-ish. My role with the student union as a member of the board of directors for a year, my 2 years with the board of governors, my work with the residence department, Hall Capella, and some dabbling with some of the other faculty associations, LASSOC and AUS, they speak for themselves. Not just a collection of clubs and associations here and there. I'd like to think that experiences partner made me a little more than that. They've given me the broad perspective that the university student union president should have to deliver the underground perspective to the decision makers at the university management level, the president and her VPs, municipal, provincial, and federal representatives. May, I would like to guide Laurier into a bright new 2021, hopefully where we can see the end of our shutdown well within sight.
Thank you very much, candidates. Joseph, I'm just going to let you know now, you were cutting in and out fairly heavily during your opening statements. I do apologize. If you want to try and do something about your audio quality, I might encourage you to do it now, or if you want to just try to keep on trucking through, we can do that as well.
I live in Newmarket. It's kind of a live and learn situation. I'm sorry, Aaron. I've had to deal with this for the last year. But if there are any elements of either my platform or my talks here today that are unclear, I'm very happy to repeat anything I said with a little extra time, if it may be given. Or if anyone is keen to reach out to me personally, then I'm very happy to fill in some gaps.
For sure. Thank you very much. Yeah, as he said, both presidential candidates, I'm sure, would be more than happy to talk at length to anybody who is interested. I am sorry to hear about your internet issues, though. It wouldn't be a virtual year without technical issues. And I'm sure that's been everybody's favorite part of this year. So we're going to do just a couple quick icebreaker questions before we move into this, just to get everybody loosened up, try and make this a positive experience overall for you guys, because I know this can be a bit nerve-wracking. Owen suggested maybe turning off your camera for better stability. I don't know if you want to try that. But as far as icebreaker questions go, why don't we start off with a simple one? What brought you guys to Laurier in the first place? What drew you to this school? We'll start with Pega.
So back in high school and even elementary school, I changed schools quite a few times. And I had a few older friends, because I was working as a lifeguard, who came to Laurier, and they really seemed to have a great community here. And I really wanted that experience. I did get the opportunity back in 2017 to come here, and I jumped at the opportunity back. I was actually committed to UOttawa, and I said this in the interview yesterday, but as soon as I got accepted here, I completely changed my plans for my future.
For sure. Great answer. Same question to you, Joseph.
Sure. So I'm going to be very honest with you, Aaron. It is a very normal story on my end. I took a campus tour with my dad the year before I came to Laurier. Beautiful summer day, and I think the good weather combined with good energy from a lot of folks around campus suddenly just made me realize this is the place to be. I guess on top of that, I live next door to a former Laurier grad, class of '95, unless I'm mistaken. But he told me apparently this was one of the best places to go at Laurier for business marketing and networking. Fast forward to 2020, and I guess networking is a little trickier. But I found it a fantastic experience, and I don't regret it for a moment.
Definitely. Now, presidential candidates, how would you describe yourself in 3 words? Take a moment if you want to think about what 3 words might describe yourself the best. And we can start with Pega.
Courageous, responsible, and hardworking. I know hardworking is 2 words, but I think those are the best terms to describe me.
I'll take it. Strong words. Joseph, same to you.
That British guy.
If
you want a more serious answer, I would unironically go with a nice guy.
Also,
that's all I need to be remembered as.
You know what? Personally, I like that British guy. Says it all. All right, thank you, candidates. And then the final icebreaker before we move into the Q&A. If you could have a meal or get the chance to meet any historical figure or any celebrity, living or dead, who do you think you would choose to share that meal with? And we'll start this time with Joseph.
Tricky question. Just to be sure, it's anyone from history, can be living or dead, right?
Yeah.
I had a really good answer to this a couple of years ago, and I can never remember what the right thing is. As far as celebrities go, I've always wondered what a movie of my life would be like, and struggled to find a good person to play me. Everyone said Colin Firth is the obvious choice. Actually got good. I think that rules him out. But I keep hearing everyone say Meryl Streep can play any role. I wonder if I could give the inevitable biopic.
I would also love to meet Meryl Streep. So I think that's a strong answer. And you're right. She can play any role if she wanted to.
Absolutely.
Perfect. All right, Pega, same question to you.
So I've thought about this a lot. So I guess now that she's passed, definitely RBG. She was one of the few reasons why I want to go into law. She was so committed and dedicated, and I wish I had her work ethic, and I strive for it. She was sleeping like 2 hours in law school, like a night, which is insane, taking double the coursework. So if I could just sit down with her and just get any type of insights on how she managed, that would be so cool.
For sure. Both good answers. All right. We're going to move out of the icebreakers into the more important questions, or so some people would say. And we are going to start this time with Joseph. So obviously, you might say this is probably one of the more important answers. So it's always good to start off strong. Why did you decide to run for president? So what were your motivations in making this decision?
Well, Aaron, I learned last night that it's very tough to condense that answer in a couple of minutes. I'm sure Amelia knows what that's like. But it very, very briefly, just a few significant points in my career. In second year, in all honesty, I wanted an excuse to see a girl on the breakfast. campus. I'm so ashamed about that. Didn't work out quite so well. But in that time, when I was considering running for the board, and saw that as an excuse to see friends, but I had a run-in with Tariq. Then we'd known each other a little while. But Tariq sat me down and sat with me for a good hour or two, and explained the ins and outs of the student union, elections, student politics, university administration, all the ins and outs. And by the end of that talk, I suddenly realized that there was a lot more for me to offer than simply just being that guy who nips off the Brent. But pushing forward, the board experience and my work with the board governors switched on something in my mind. I myself suddenly thrust into a position as a residence education advisor for a year and a half, working across 4 different buildings. No one knew what I did. It's okay. But in that time, perspectives and the top-down strategic direction that I was setting for myself and that I through my work helped me understand that it was about time for the students at the bottom rung of the social ladder, so to speak, within the union, as well as the younger students who seemed to be so closed out of the university experience to finally come into their element for a fresh crop of new ideas and students to rise up through the ranks. And where I'm a bit of an old soul now, I see myself as wanting to be the steward for that young flock, a shepherd, if you will, to allow a new crop of good new students to bring great new ideas amidst such a challenging time.
For sure. Strong answer. Thank you, Joseph. Same question to you, Pega. Why did you decide to run for president? What were your motivations?
So if you'd asked me years ago if I ever saw myself in this position, the answer is absolutely not. But over the time, I've come to become so involved in the Laurier community, and it's done a lot for me, more than I can say. But yet again, to be able to give back to this community is just such a great opportunity. I love the school. I've loved my positions with administration, both at the Senate level and the Board of Governors. And that really showed me how much change we could make, even with this Respondus lockdown. I had such a great team. And I realized I really like working with teams. I like to sometimes take on leadership positions. And we were able to instill the credits for this semester alongside the help of Devin and the SU. And that was just such a great opportunity. And I saw that if I have this role and if I can also be on the SU, I can do so much for the school, and it would just be amazing to see. Also, looking at COVID, I noticed that there was just a lot of things that I wish I could have done, but obviously I don't have the power, authority, or a platform to do so. So if I had been elected, if I get to be elected as your president, that would be such a great opportunity to really figure out what we could do best for the incoming first years and the first years currently.
I was muted. Thank you, both candidates. We're going to be moving into the next question now. Obviously, both of you has spoken to your involvements over the course of your time at Laurier and how they've impacted you. But I'd like to know a little bit more, specifically how your involvements, extracurriculars, Senate, Board of Governors, et cetera, how those experiences have prepared you to run for this role. So how have they impacted your professional or personal skills? What knowledge have you gained through these experiences, and why you think they will directly apply to the role of president? So we can begin again with Joseph whenever you are ready.
Sure. So a large part of my experience has come from my role on the board of directors. While it was very brief, it was a considerable period of change for the union. And I want to capture something, the role itself, in the fact that directors prime responsibility is to keep the student union president accountable, helped me better understand through experiential learning exactly what it is the president does and how they delegate their team. And I want to make this very clear. Had I not been a member of the student union directors, I would not run, not having had experience, hands-on opportunity. That said, I want to harp on a particular element of my board experience, and the challenge that I'm talking about in that year was Tariq Plummer's decision to run for president. That had been a precedent for the union. Up to that point, no sitting chair of the board had run for president while still sat. So a major conflict of interest was very, very messy. And one of the unfortunate legacies of my board in particular was that we found ourselves very, very split among certain lines. Some of us really, really wanted to allow Tariq to run for president, and others really, really didn't. So Tariq, being in his position as chair, delegated the chair position for certain meetings as we were figuring out the constitutional and policy elements of that issue to me. Recognizing that I could sit on the fence, accurately listen to both polarized sides of the discussion, and reach a happy medium. I don't know if happy is quite what I'd use, I think, on it, but nevertheless, demonstrated in that moment my ability to sit at the head of the table and delegate between very, very strong opposing sides. That experience, in and of itself, brief, I think gave me the chops to do what the president needs to do every day for a 12-month period.
For sure. Thank you very much, candidate Joseph. Candidate Pega, same question to you. How have the experiences you've had while at Laurier helped prepare you for this role? What kind of skills and experiences do you think would benefit you that you have gained from these opportunities?
Sorry, I forgot I was muted. So I have a myriad of different experiences in different areas of the university and community. In first year, I was on outreach with first year House Council. In second year, I really got more involved with my sorority. And then in third year, I ran for these two positions. So I see different areas and I get a chance to meet so many different individuals. So speaking to my connections with my sorority to begin with, I have gotten the chance to understand Greek life, Greek council, and what needs they might have. And they're not a small body. There are almost 1,000 members in this body. I'm not exactly sure of the numbers per se. Then going on to speak about my, going on to speak about my experience with the Board of Governors, we do a bit of finance, which I can definitely use to understand as best as I can with the Students' Union. That would be a great experience. And then going on to the Senate has taught me to work with students, senators. We've come up with different ideas on how we could best deal with the Respondus lockdown browser. With that being said, I was also elected kind of like our group leader to organize events and stuff like that amongst ourselves. It's not an official title or anything, but it was really nice to get that because I do pride myself in my leadership experience. Speaking outside of just my experience with Laurier per se, I was a lifeguard for quite some time. I was one of the youngest head lifeguards ever promoted. I was one of their youngest hires ever hired. I have a great experience with leadership and also just being a good team member.
Thank you very much, candidates, for your responses. Very strong on both sides. Next question for both candidates. What, in your opinion, is one of the most important issues facing students? You could think this year, but also into next, that you would like to address if elected president. So what are the most important issues facing students that you might like to address if you are elected president. We can start again with Joseph.
Sure. It's a tough question to answer, Aaron, because of the intersectional nature of the COVID pandemic. It affected virtually every element of the Laurier experience. And so I could talk to the extent of communication between the union and faculty associations. I could talk to the culture of inclusivity or exclusivity, especially felt among the diverse communities at Laurier. I could speak to the breakdown of communication between the union and the residents department and the involvement of icebreakers in particular within residents' communities. But I want to hone in on a particular element that I'd like to help narrow down, and that is centralized communication of the union, or what I and many other students have come to see as the lack thereof. Now, I want to talk a little bit to the purge. Older students will probably remember that some time ago the union had a functional centralized hub for clubs and associations to market themselves, indicate registration times, sort out reimbursements, plug events, and help young students get familiar with how they can get involved on campus. Fantastic idea. It certainly had some hiccups here and there, but ever since the Student Choice Initiative announced, the purge went bankrupt. So we can't necessarily attribute the failures of that hub to the COVID situation necessarily, but in my administration, we have seen a continued fragmentation of different groups, clubs, associations, residents across Laurier. And it starts with the fact that we lack that central hub. We're strewn across so many different platforms, Aaron, Facebook and Instagram and my learning space at Morris have so many different informational bits. Students don't know where to get their central information. I mean, isn't it strange to you that we have all these different platforms that the union and university use to market themselves, and yet students can't find information? It just doesn't make sense to me. So that is where I would like to really ramp up the work that President Kelly has initiated in getting an adequate replacement to the purge set up and going for my administration to make sure that clubs, associations, and so many other groups around Laurier do have that one-stop shop for the information they need to revitalize our community in very fragmented times.
Thank you very much. Strong answer. Same question to you, Pega. What are some of the most important issues facing students currently that you might like to address if elected?
So there's quite a bit. Obviously, we're in a unprecedented time. So there's obviously the issues with the fatigue of social distancing, and just, you know, lockdown. That really sucks. But one of the biggest things that I knew that I really wanted to talk about coming into this, before even COVID had even happened, was mental health. I am a huge advocate for it. I know that Laurier actually has resources, and as I had a mental health coordinator to help me with policy building. We met with wellness, we met with different areas of the students union, administration, to understand what resources are available and where we're lacking. And what I really came to understand was we just don't market what we have available all that well. And I'm not saying that that's anybody's fault, but I think that one of the biggest things that we should be doing is not just hiring new resources, but also making sure students know what is available to them. So if that is by creating either a new website or a web bot, which was actually suggested when I did a poll of students, those are things that I'm very strongly going to advocate for. Last year, I saw that Devin had answered something to do with BetterHelp. I actually used the BetterHelp resource myself. I started because COVID started to take a toll on my mental health. And it is a website where you can meet with therapists online. And that's all we can do with this COVID time is to meet with people virtually. So I think that that's a very good system that we have. And I was hoping that maybe we could find some way to subsidize it. Obviously, speaking beyond just the Laurier community, the environment is a huge problem and it's not getting any better. What we really need to start enforcing more sustainable projects. We need to start being more strong with our sustainability goals. And a large part of my platform is dedicated to sustainability. I also hired a sustainability director of policy, and we have met with various different members of the administration as well. And we've come to understand that there's a sustainability office who actually has a set of goals that we're willing to help them with. We also want to implement more green bins in Ezra Bricker units and in residences. We want to create more awareness as to what garbage, as to where to dispose of your garbages. And these are all very simple tasks that we could definitely accomplish. We want to start lobbying government and also working with town and gown committees to implement more garbage disposals on busy student areas such as Ezra, Albert, and areas in Brantford campus.
Wonderful. Thank you, both candidates. I want to leave plenty of time for audience participation if they have questions that they would like to ask. So I will ask one more question before I do that. Anybody who is in the audience, feel free to start sending messages in the chat box or preparing any questions that you might want to ask the candidates. This will be, again, a question for both candidates. Obviously, it is important to be, self-critical as well as critical of others while in this role. So in preparation for running for president, I am making the assumption that you have been following the progress of current President Devin Kelly. So because of that, could you please provide us with your critique of the president's performance this year, what you thought she may have done well and you might like to see continue into your own presidency, things that you've taken some issue with or you see an opportunity for improvement on, things of that nature. So we can begin this time with candidate Pega.
So we got this question yesterday and I was taken a little aback. Personally, I'm not a fan of this question because I think that Devin did as great a job and her team did as great a job as possible, given that this is an unprecedented time, as I mentioned. It is hard. I couldn't imagine what it would be like, and I couldn't say that I would do any better or any worse a job, because all I can do is just see what she's done and go from there now that we have had at least a year of experience dealing with COVID. Her team could have completely dissolved. Volunteer retention was still pretty great from what I saw, which is, I think, a great, something that's very great. One thing that I do have a critique for, and that's not just her year, but every year in the SU, is marketing. So as a sociology student, I study marketing quite a bit. And that's an area of interest of mine. I think that the SU just needs to be marketed more to students who are not really involved in SU. And I think that I come with that fresh perspective, given that I haven't had too much experience as a board director. I think that we need to be more, we need to keep it simple. We need to have students understand what resources are available. And I think that it's just a very humble way that they've been so focused on actually getting things done that they haven't had a chance to brag about it, which is, I think, yet again, pretty notable, very great of them. But I would like to make sure that people are aware of what the SU is doing and so on. Another thing is we just have to watch out for kind of the operationalization of how we're going to, become, like one thing that was mentioned in the strategic plan by the Students' Union was that kind of just making sure that the transition between both years, from her presidency to whoever wins the presidency next, is operationalized well. Obviously, we've never done it through COVID, so we definitely have to make sure that Devin is prepared for that, and I think that she will, but that's all I have to say about it.
Thank you for your response. Joseph, same question to you. Please critique the current president's performance this year.
All right, then. I think respectfully, I think I should start by echoing something Pega said just a moment ago, that no means can Debbie Kelly be blamed for the breakdown in operations because of the COVID pandemic. It would be silly to go that far. But a lot of President Kelly's actions, behaviours, as far as communication has gone, are, I believe, representative of a larger problem with the union since Tariq Plummer left office. And brought him up time and time again. This should really cement the parallels between us, in that Tariq was a man of action, and as an accountant by trade, I respected that. I think buzzwords like communication and efficiency are very, very nice, but I'd like to see actionable items attached to those words, those broader strategic goals. And so, as part of his real implementation of good communication, Tariq, for those of us who are older students, remember Tariq's presidency, he used to issue on the Student Union webpage a series of monthly presidential updates, essentially condensing all the major policies and operations that he'd engaged in over the past month that he knew would grab students' attention and make it clear what he was doing. And at the very bottom of those updates, every month, he had a little graphic with a checklist with every one of his major campaign promises ticked off as he accomplished them by each month. Now, I understand that there's a strong difference between strategic vision and operations, but I believe in good action to accompany vision. I want to see clear communication from next year's president. I believe that by not incorporating an actionable item to make it clear what President Kelly has accomplished this year, she has underserved the student body, helping make clear her policies. It's very good that she's doing great work to revitalize and sustain the Laurier spirit. But students don't know what's going on. They have to traipse through hundreds of pages of board minutes to understand the big things she's doing. There's a serious miscommunication there. And that's where I like to fix things, ideally. Bring back the monthly checklists and the updates. Make it clear what is going on.
For sure. Thank you both candidates, very strong answers. We are going to take a quick 2-minute break just before we move into audience questions. So candidates, take an opportunity to grab yourselves a drink or something. Everybody else get up and stretch your legs, and we will be back at 3:16.
Joseph, can you check your messages on Zoom?
Oh, yeah, sorry I missed that.
Do you want to try calling in? It's a bit hard to hear for some of the people.
Sure. Through a phone, you mean, yeah?
Yeah, through the phone.
All right. I wasn't sure if there was a Zoom function on the laptop. All right, hold on just a second.
I sent you the numbers on Messenger about the numbers you can call in.
I got those. Just give me a quick sec. It's asking me for a meeting ID. So Mead, is that just a meeting ID for this one, 966?
Yeah, that's the meeting ID.
Okay.
If you want, you can just keep your camera on that way and then just talk to the phone.
It's asking me for my user ID now.
Is it asking for a Zoom username or something?
Oh, hang on.
Oh yeah, I got it.
Hey, that's me. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Is it coming through my phone or Zoom? My laptop. Sorry.
It's coming through your Zoom right now. You're unmuted. You're not muted. You're muted on your phone.
How's this?
Just mute your what's it called? Zoom, and then I think it should be fine.
Okay, perfect.
We trying to sort out the audio issues?
Yeah, it's a little echoey, but I hope this is a little better.
Sounding a lot better to me.
Perfect. I'd like to
Okay.
become the first presidential candidate to kind of do it this way.
Yeah, no, I gotta say this is probably most definitely a first for all of us.
Amazing. Well, I know then if I don't win the whole contest, then I've been a pioneer of sorts.
Exactly. All right, we can get back to it now. We have some positive comments already. Better for the audience. We'd love to see it. We're gonna head into some audience questions now, just so that they have the opportunity to give their input. I know I've been talking a lot, so we do have a question starting off for candidate Joey. Are you aware that the SU recently invested in a comprehensive clubs platform that is called The Nest, that is already in the process of launching? And if you are aware of it, what are your plans in relation to your own platform?
Yeah. So I appreciate the clarification on that. I recently spoke to a member of the Clubs and Associations Department at the Student Union who had made me aware that that framework had launched and was very much in its infancy. But what I'm looking for is a vast expansion of the existing mechanism. Right now that we've got the framework going and off the ground, it's excellent, but we need to see it fill in the gaps that the perch left behind. If it's not doing so yet, and if it's not been made extensively clear to clubs and associations across Waterloo and Brentford exactly how it can aid in reimbursement, club sign-up, registration, and helping new members join up, and helping the clubs pitch to younger students, especially first years, then I think there's a serious underserving.
Thank you very much for your response. We have a question for both candidates. How do you envision your working relationship with the rest of the student executive team should you be elected this year? So we can begin this time with candidate Pega.
Yeah, so obviously we start with VP roles and then we go to AVPs, and then there's also the board of directors. One thing that I want to make sure is that I'm very attentive and I'm selecting the VPs based upon merit. And because of my lack of, not having been too involved in the SU politics, I think that I have a good understanding of making sure that everyone there is merit-based. I think that one of the biggest things is communication. And as many know, I'm usually pretty good with my phone and responding within a short period of time, probably to a fault, if anything. But I definitely find that communication will definitely be the biggest part of it all. I can't speak more to that other than I hope to be very transparent with the board of directors as well. And I'm not a huge micromanager in the slightest. So I will definitely give my VPs the opportunity to take on their roles as best they can and as best they see fit.
Thank you very much. Joseph, same question to you. How do you see your working relationship with the rest of the student executive team should you be elected this year?
All right. So much like Pega, I recognize that the job of president is largely a stewardship role, and that a president cannot micromanage. It's just not within their physical capacity to do so. And that requires an intense level of trust to be delegated, not only amongst the 4 VPs of the 4 main student union departments, that is finance and admin, clubs and associations, university affairs, campus experience across 2 campuses, mind, but to make sure that special representatives for other faculty associations and groups across Laurier are accommodated on a need-by-need basis. This actually informed a major element of my own platform, which I've had some positive feedback from several members of these faculty associations. AUS, LASOC, Boston, FOMSA in particular, expressed interest in the idea of special student envoys. That is, student representatives who would be hired to join in on meetings of faculty associations, who would be trained to effectively act as policy agents. The idea being that there has been an expressed need to cut down on the admin red tape that stops clubs and associations from getting reimbursement and registrations and student union policy for necessary events information on time. The idea is to cut down on that. Why not have a person from the union attend each meeting, especially equipped to deliver policy in the moment and be able to then bring the concerns of that particular faculty association, which couldn't be answered by that agent, back to the clubs and associations department, who could then make those associations much clearer about policy. Streamlined communication is the name of the game. And it's not just a buzzword there, it's an actionable item.
Thank you very much, candidates. We're going to be going to the next question now. Obviously, I think if anybody has been paying attention to social media, one of the things that has been criticized, rightfully so or otherwise, has been communication between the students' union and the students. So if elected, what are your plans to enhance communication between the students' union and the student body directly? So we'll start this time with Pega. And if you have actionable ideas, I would recommend saying that.
Okay, so like I said, marketing is a huge part of this. And because of COVID, obviously, there's been so many things that they've had to focus on that obviously this wasn't a top priority. I think that one thing that I've come to realize is social media is such an important tool in any sort of campaign or marketing strategy. And we see right now that there's Spotted at Laurier. And this Spotted account has been known to give misinformation. Though it is a great student initiative, I think that we should definitely have more attention drawn to the Twitter accounts of the Students' Union. We have systems such as the U-Desk, which almost have answers to everything resource-based that the SU has. So I think that maybe incorporating more attention to the U-Desk Twitter or the Students' Union Twitter. Those are things that I think are very approachable things that we can do. Obviously, there's policy things that we have to make sure that we're following, but even having this account reply to things on Spotted, because I think a lot of misinformation from the Spotted account has led to a misunderstanding of what Devon's job is, a lot of backlash to what the student union does. I think that they have a great, speaking on Instagram, I think that the Instagram's done a great job, and I would hope that we can maintain it. Also making sure that we're staying up to date with what social medias are best utilized by incoming first years, such as TikTok and so on, which I see that they've done a great job with, and just continuing that.
Thank you very much. Same question to you as well, candidate Joseph. What actionable plans do you have to enhance the communication between the SU and students directly?
Right. I may be beating the dead horse here, Aaron, but I've mentioned it before and I would like to reiterate clear monthly updates on the Student Union website, a clean new face for that page, a one-stop shop for information, so that students don't have to look at Facebook for one update and Instagram for another and TikTok for another and Twitter for yet another. Having one central hub for all this information, Aaron, I believe will streamline things and help us get back to the communication levels that Tariq Plummer's administration really enjoyed. The student surveys came in from that time and they couldn't have been clearer. Tariq's monthly update checklist really made that difference. When he made it clear exactly what he was doing to implement his integrated wellness center and his Greek life reintegration and his diversity and equity initiative, you could see the step-by-step process. And that is what I'm going to do to bring back good communication for the students.
Thank you very much for both of your answers. In the interest of time, I do want to point out that we are almost nearing the end of our scheduled time period. That being said, this is the last scheduled thing for the day. So I just wanted to gauge the comfort level of our candidates and make sure they don't have any commitments that they need to get to, or if they are comfortable with a few more questions.
I'm happy with a few more, Aaron. I've noticed some come up in the chat there. There's a great one from Catherine Martin about mental health that I'm really hoping to get around to. So I'm happy to take plenty more questions.
Yes, feel free. You can go ahead with that question if you can read it, all right?
Sure. So just for clarity, that's for Joseph. What is your focus on mental health for your presidential platform? And how do you intend to further manage the mental health effects of the pandemic on Laurier students? Catherine, it's a meaty question, I'll give you that. So a good answer to this question is that before the COVID shutdown, about a year ago, I sat down for coffee with the now former VP of Student Affairs, Dr. Dave McMurray. Fantastic guy. He explained to me exactly how the process of mental health adjudication and integrated wellness services have been going for the past few years of surveying at Laurier. Bear in mind, this is the guy at the top of the food chain for student affairs. So I was keen to get that precise information on what was being underserved as far as mental health initiatives go. And what he told me really surprised me. Apparently, the biggest problem that Dave told me was not with the marketing of the services, nor the quality of the services themselves. The problem with mental health services at Laurier, as Dave told me, was that there simply was not the physical capacity to host the sheer demand of services that students were demanding. As the conversation around mental health has become increasingly destigmatized, which is a very good thing, more and more students have been seeking the services, and as it stands, the current size, literal size of the Wellness Center and its offices and staff just are not enough to host that demand. And this, Dave explained, is why so many students are having issues booking appointments, getting urgent care scheduled 2-3 weeks in advance, even months at a time. Dave proposed a solution spearheaded by the university, but with the potential support of next year's Student Union president, that I would like to see come to fruition as and when the COVID pandemic winds down. And that is, Dave McMurray proposed an entire separation of wellness services within Laurier. The grand statement, but he proposed the separation of physical wellness services from mental wellness services, which many of us will understand are an entirely different, albeit relatively connected, set of issues. Mental health issues certainly do not take the same kind of investment as physical health issues, while both are respectable. So what he proposed was a renovation planned for the university, which I can't get into the details about for confidentiality reasons, but a renovation of buildings on campus that would allow for massively increased space and capacity for mental wellness services at Laurier, more offices, more staff on hand full time for the wellness center and the circle of care to accommodate the increased demand for student services. That is my answer to the need for these services, Catherine. I would like to put the student union support behind this university initiative as and when it becomes necessary. We need the space for so many students who need these services. And I know that I can be the person to help the current administration of the university, Deb McClatchy and her new VPs, especially Dr. Ivan Joseph, find their footing and know that they have the union's full support on this endeavor.
Thank you for your very comprehensive answer, Joseph. We'll go to the next question for both candidates because I want to give candidate Pega an opportunity to speak as well. What does the University Affairs Department do? And what is one goal that you have for that department? We'll begin with Pega.
Okay, so when I first started building my platform and understanding the role of president, I didn't know exactly how to get policy formulated and what bodies to talk to. The University Affairs VP had been really helpful in that, and I found it to be a really interesting position where the VP has two AVPs, and they basically kind of lobby government at times. They work with USA, and I find that was really interesting. I hope that with that being said, that we'll be one of the things, like I mentioned, was mental health is a huge thing for me, and is a huge part of my platform. So obviously working alongside the University Affairs, I would like to see what kind of policy changes we can do, talk about with USA and just local MPPs to get more funding for just all university campuses, just for mental health resources.
Thank you very much. Same question to you, Joseph.
The University Affairs Department of the Student Union, as Pega mentioned, handles much of the policy drafting. They cooperate with both the Student Affairs Department of the large university, which is now headed by Dr. Ivan Joseph, Kate Bristol, and Adam Lawrence, the Deans of Students for Waterloo and Brantford, respectively. They meet with municipal, provincial, and federal representatives to help see actions put in place to lobby for better living and working conditions for students. Some of the work they've done has been instrumental. I'm glad Pega actually mentioned the example of USA, because an actionable item that you can attach to the University Affairs, which is excellent, was just a few years ago when the student union, with the help of our former chair of the board and University Affairs delegate Colin Aitchison, lobbied the provincial government to implement a freeze on the rate of increase of tuition rates for domestic students in Ontario. Effectively, before the change, the province could have raised or lowered tuition rates however they felt necessary. But through the great work of the Uni Affairs Department and Colin, who deserves a lot of credit, and USA, of course, we can rest assured that the province cannot raise domestic students' tuition rates more than 5% in a given year. It's a very mouthy answer, I suppose, but if you want an actionable item to set aside university affairs work, that is what they do. That's what real policy change looks like. It's what I'm hoping to implement more of under my administration.
Thank you very much again, candidates. I will allow for a few more questions before we reach the end. Some of the questions that have been proposed are going to be great for the upcoming presidential debate, so I'm going to set those aside. There is another question that I'm going to set aside for a later event as well. But one question that I will ask before I ask for any final questions. What can you tell us about the relationship between the president and the chair of the board of directors? Pega, you may go first.
So from my understanding, the chair is kind of the spokesperson for the board of directors and has has a close relationship with the president, in which they whatever is going on at the board of directors is then mentioned to the president. Yet again, the board of directors is kind of like the checks and balances of a business. They make sure that policy formulation and everything that the president is doing is up to date, within the boundaries of their jurisdiction. And usually board of directors members don't really contact the president independently of the chair.
Good answer. Joseph, is there anything that you would like to add to that question?
I think Peggy described the nuts and bolts of the role and responsibility of the chair pretty well, in that they are the spokesperson for the larger board. The way I believe the policy manager of the union described it when I came onto the board was, imagine there's a giant laser wall between you directors and the president, that if you step across it, you get cut into pieces. That's the idea, essentially. The idea that directors really should not be doing their own business with the president. And as the one person who can represent the board's interest to the chair, that person holds a pivotal role in making sure that not only are they capturing the wishes and desires of the single highest governance organization in the union, that they are also complying with all the elements of the policy manual and the constitution of the union. There's a specific set of rules in the union's policy manual, which basically tell the union, the president and the board of directors what they can and can't do. But there's a specific subsection of that policy manual set aside for board management delegation, which effectively outlines how the president may or may not contact and cooperate with the board of directors. The chair's role in that is crucial as that one pivotal steward.
Thank you very much, candidates, for your answers. I'm going to give one more opportunity for anybody who has a question for one or both of the candidates to ask away before we move into closing statements. As a reminder, if we don't get to the question today, don't worry, we have seen them. There will be plenty of opportunities for you guys to ask questions or send questions to us to ask to these guys, so fear not. But is there anybody else that has a question at this moment? Feel free to raise your hand, unmute yourself, throw it in the chat box, whatever you feel comfortable with. Perfect. All right. Then in that case, presidential candidates, you've done a lot of talking today. Thank you very much for coming out. We are going to move into closing statements from both of you. You will have up to 3 minutes if you want. Make any other comments that you want. Talk about anything else that you believe should be important or relevant to your platform or goals. And we can begin with Pega for this.
So I'm really excited to announce that we have partnered with CAMH to fundraise for the CAMH Hospital, which is the Center of Addiction and Mental Health. We're running a virtual 5K, and my team has actually just started posting about it right now. And this is pretty exciting. It's on January 26th. So I really hope that people can donate and share. Because we have such a large platform, I just thought this was the best way to utilize it for some good. Further, if you have any questions about, if you have any questions about my platform or myself or anything else, you're welcome to contact me on the Vote PJ 2021 Instagram or on my website, www.votepj2021.com.
Thank you very much. Candidate Joseph, you have 3 minutes for your closing statement as well.
Thanks very much, Aaron. I'd like to close out here tonight, folks, with a quote from a former residence student of mine, someone I worked with very closely during my time in community outreach and my last year as a residence education advisor. I spoke to them this past summer, and they said in their words, the Laurier spirit is basically dead this year. That came from one of the most uplifting, optimistic, and brightest, keenest young Golden Hawks that I've met across a very, very long Laurier career. To see that kind of disappointment echoed by some of the brightest among our community absolutely breaks my heart, folks. And this is what keeps spurring me on to change things this May. When I'm elected, I can't promise that I'll end the COVID pandemic. Who could, right? What I would like to do at least is bring a friendly face, a clear communication, and another helping hand, just as Tariq did 3 years ago, back to the union. It's what you deserve. It's what we deserve as a community. And knowing the very disappointing past 11 months we've had. I think we deserve a bright and golden horizon to look forward to in 2021. And I would like to be the one to deliver that to you.
Presidential candidates, Pega and Joseph, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate you being here today to talk with us. Everybody, I hope you have a wonderful evening. Thank you all for attending and coming and asking the thoughtful and insightful questions that you have. It means the world to us that you get as invested in this as we are. And thank you to the fine people in the chat box as well. I hope you all have a great week. The next event we will be hosting will be the presidential debate on Monday. So please, presidential candidates, enjoy the preparations for that and enjoy your evenings as well. To everyone else, I hope you have a fantastic night.